Hi, friends. It's Heidi from the Launchpad. I'm really excited that you still get to join us for our My Grown Up and Me Owl Name Plaque program with Miss Katie and me. I'll be doing our art project like usual, and Miss Katie will be sharing a wonderful book and some fun songs and activities with us. I'm going to be the one who starts today because we're going to do a little something special to get our owls started, and then we'll give them some drawing time so Miss Katie can do her stories and songs. So make sure what you need to do to get ready is on your work surface or table where you'll be painting. I recommend putting up some paper or a drop cloth just in case you have any little spills. And you might want to wear an old shirt or some kind of smock or apron to protect your clothes from any drips of paint. The great thing about this paint is that it's tempera paint, which means it's really easy to wash out with some soap and water. So I'm glad that you're here. I hope you have a great time. Make sure all of your tools and paint are set out. You'll also need a few cups of water for cleaning your brushes off, and then we'll be ready to go. We'd love to see the work that you do, so make sure to send us pictures at digitalmaker@itpld.org. You can get help from your grown-up doing that, or you can always bring your project in the next time you come to the library and stop in the Launchpad to show us. We'd love to see what you're making at home. And don't forget that you can pick up a DIY to go kit while you're here. Finally, if you like this video, please make sure to give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the ITPLD YouTube channel to get notifications when we put new videos up. I hope you have a great time and you make the most beautiful art. I know you will. Everyone does. So I'll see you in a little bit. We're going to do some magic and start our video. See you in there. I'm going to start this time instead of Miss Katie because we're going to do something that will need a little bit of time to dry. So we have this piece of wood and we're going to do something called priming our wood. I'm going to dip my brush in some water and then we're going to use the white to prime it. And when I say prime, that means we're going to get ready for our surface to be able to hold all of our other paint colors so they show up nice and bright and they don't get soaked into the wood, because the wood has what are called pores. They're tiny little holes you can't see, but the wood will soak up some of the paint. So we're going to take our white and we're going to make a nice layer, and we're going to make sure we're using the big brush because we should always use the brush that's best for the job. Since we're covering a big area, a big space, we're going to use our big brush to cover that space. You can see that you can still see the wood even though you're putting this white paint on there. And that's why we're putting it on there, because if we didn't put the white paint, then we wouldn't be able to see the other colors. They'd get soaked up into that wood. So we're going to do our first layer here and make sure spread it out nice and thin so we don't have any globby spots. Cover the whole thing. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do some back up here at the top. And because we're doing a thin layer, it will dry quickly, but we're going to make sure it has plenty of time to dry while Miss Katie is telling her story and singing her songs for us and with us, because we're going to do it all together. Okay, I know it doesn't look like there's a lot of paint on here, but believe me, this is going to be a big help when it comes time to paint our owls in a little bit. Okay, make sure to smear all those so we don't have any globs. Put our brush across it. And then you can look and make sure it looks like it's all covered. Mine looks like it's been all covered by paint. So I'm going to put it to the side, wash off my paintbrush. And I will show you an example of what happens when we don't prime. So if we don't prime, this one wasn't primed before. You can see where you can kind of still see the wood through, and it's not as dark in places. The places where the brown is darkest is where there are two layers. And that's because when we did the first coat of brown, it sunk in to the wood nicely. But then that means it's showing a lot of the wood still underneath it. So we made a nice, good base that our paint is going to go on. All right. Miss Katie, are you primed and ready to go?
Yes, I think so.
I'm going to give Miss Katie the floor.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I was really excited when Miss Heidi suggested that we try owls for this project because owls are one of my favorite animals. So I've got a song to help warm us up today. We have the book, Wow, Said the Owl by Tim Hopgood, which is one of my favorites. And then we're going to finish up with a special owl song. So to start out, we're going to try a song called Wiggle Your Fingers. And we're going to sing this to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So does everybody have both of their hands with them today? Yeah? Okay. Just want to make sure they weren't still, sleeping in bed somewhere. So we're going to start out just giving our fingers a nice, gentle wiggle. And we'll sing wiggle, wiggle, wiggle your fingers, my friend. All right, we're going to take it up and down. Wiggle them high and wiggle them low. Wiggle your fingers, my friend. All right, that was awesome. Now we're going to take it fast and slow. Ready? Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle your fingers, my friend. Wiggle them fast, wiggle them slow. Wiggle your fingers, my friend. Fantastic. All right, we have one more verse. For this last one, we're going to wiggle them around. So that means we're going to make a big circle with our hands and take our fingers in a big loop. Ready? Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle your fingers, my friend. Wiggle them round and round and round. Wiggle your fingers, my friend. Fantastic. All right, so you feel like you're a little bit warmed up, woken up, ready to go? Fantastic. All right, so our story today is called Wow, Said the Owl. So let's take a look. All right, so this is how our story starts. You can see we've got a nice shining moon in the sky. So it's definitely nighttime, right? At night, when we are feeling tired and ready for bed, Owls are just waking up. Owls live in a nighttime world. They have eyes that can see in the dark. All right, if you take a look at that picture, can you see the owl's eyes? Got two yellow eyes peeking out of the tree right there. But this little owl was a curious owl. Instead of staying awake all night, as little owls are supposed to do, she took a long nap and woke up just before dawn. Wow, said the owl. She couldn't believe her eyes. The sky was a warm and wonderful pink. Check that out. And you can see how surprised Owl looks. Do you think Owl's ever seen anything like that before? No, because that looks so different than the nighttime sky, right? Wow, said the owl as the yellow sun shone through the morning mist. Got another bright, bold color there. Wow, said the owl as white, fluffy clouds floated across the bright blue sky. All right, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clouds are floating by. Wow, Owl's getting to see some really cool stuff. Wow, said the owl when she saw that the leaves on her tree were green. So she never realized that she was surrounded by such colorful leaves before. Wow, said the owl as the pretty red butterflies flew by. All right, let's take a look. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 butterflies. I'm guessing maybe they're flying to find some food. She watched them land on the bright orange flowers, which opened up in the warm sunshine. So you can see we've got a really pretty field filled with all different kinds of flowers, and the butterflies are stopping by for a snack. Up in the sky, the clouds turned gray and it started to rain, but the sun was still shining. Have you ever seen a day like that before? It can be kind of confusing, but I think something special is about to happen. Wow, said the owl as a rainbow of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet filled the sky. Look at those colors. The little owl sat happily in her tree and watched as the sun went down and the moon came up. The daytime is full of beautiful colors, she thought. But wow, said the owl, the nighttime stars are the most beautiful of all. Too excited to sleep, the little owl stayed awake all night long, just like little owls are supposed to do. So check out that night sky with the moon and all of the beautiful stars. The end. All right, so now we are going to try a song called If You're an Owl and You Know It. So we'll sing this to the tune of If You're Happy and Know It, but instead of singing If You're Happy and You Know It, clap your hands, we're gonna start out, bring our hands into our shoulders, and we're gonna move our elbows up and down. We're gonna make some owl wings, and we'll sing, if you're an owl and you know it, flap your wings. If you're an owl and you know it, flap your wings. You're an owl and you know it, and you really wanna show it. If you're an owl and you know it, flap your wings. Oh, that was great. All right, now one of the other things that owls have, instead of a mouth like our mouth, they have a beak. So we're gonna open and close our hands just like an owl's beak. And we'll sing, if you're an owl and you know it, snap your beak. You're an owl and you know it, snap your beak. You're an owl and you know it, and you really want to show it. You're an owl and you know it, snap your beak. All right, now one of the things that I learned about owls is that they have really special eyes. They're actually a tube that goes back and is held in place in their skull. So we can move our eyes back and forth, up and down when we want to see different things, but owls can't do that. They have to move their whole head. But owls can actually see things that we can't. So their eyes are very special. So our next verse, we are going to give our eyes a big blink. Ready? If you're an owl and you know it, blink your eyes. If you're an owl and you know it, blink your eyes. If you're an owl and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're an owl and you know it, blink your eyes. Oh, that was awesome. All right, we are going to try one final verse. Of course, everybody's heard an owl's cry before, right? They say, ooh, ooh, which can be really spooky sometimes to hear if you're walking out at night, or maybe you're listening before you go to bed. So for our very last verse, we're going to sing, if you're an owl and you know it, say, ooh, ooh. Ready? If you're an owl and you know it, say, ooh, ooh. If you're an owl and you know it, say, ooh, ooh. If you're an owl and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're an owl and you know it, say, ooh, ooh. Nice job, everyone. That was awesome. All right, Miss Heidi, I think, are we ready to do some more painting?
I think we're ready for some more painting.
All right, I'm gonna put my smock on and get ready.
Let's move back to our owl cam. There we go. So our owl has been primed. It's mostly dry now. It might still be a little bit tacky, but that's okay. So in our story, can you remember the colors that the owl was? Can you pick up the paint to show me which color it was? Was the owl fuchsia? I don't think so, but I remember he saw some pink fuchsia butterflies. Was the owl orange? Maybe not all of him. I remember that he saw the sun, which was nice yellow and kind of orange, and maybe part of the owl was orange. Was the owl brown? That's the color. I remember the owl being, he was kind of a light brown and a dark brown, and it looks like he had some kind of white little feathers. So that's the owl in the book, but because this is your owl, you can do what you want with your colors just a little bit. We just have to make sure, like I said before, we use the right paintbrush for the right job. So just to remind you of how we started, we did our layer with this big brush. We did our layer of white and went over the whole thing to prime it. And now I'm going to use my medium brush. And I am going to make my owl a brown owl. But I want to give him a little depth and dimension. So by doing layers of brown, so I'm going to start, and I remember I want the owl to be brown here. Oh, here are his feet down here. I don't want his feet to be brown. I want them to be another color. So I'm going to make sure I kind of paint past that so I don't paint his feet. And if I run out of paint on my brush, I'm going to dip it in and keep going. Nice, smooth strokes. Our brown paint. And I'm going to do this all over his body. You could choose not to. Actually, I want to save a little space. I'm going to draw or paint a circle around his head. So if you want his whole body to be the dark, dark brown, you can do that all over, but I want part of his face to be a lighter color brown because I want to do something special with some of the parts, his facial features, the parts of his face or their face. I don't know. Maybe this is a girl owl or a boy owl, or maybe they're not either of those things. They're just an owl.
Or a baby owlet, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to leave that brown circle there for some facial features of my owl. Okay, and then you want to smooth your paint out because that will help it to dry faster if we don't have globby bits. Now, I want a slightly lighter color brown for my face on my owl. And if you remember from a different lesson, one way to make a lighter color is to mix, or one way to make your colors lighter is to mix a little bit of white. So I have the top of my white, and I'm going to go ahead and mix some of this brown in just a little bit. Give me a lighter brown color. I'm mixing it just like this. I get a light brown color. And that's the color. I'm going to get all of that nice light brown paint. And I'm going to just paint it lightly. That little hole I left for the face. I'm going to make that nice and smooth. So you can do whatever you want, remember, because this is your owl. And just so that his body seems darker, I'm going to put some more regular brown paint. One more layer. Now, animals like owls, of course, really exist and they look a specific way depending on the kind of owl they are. There are so many different types of owls, and they have all kinds of colors, different kinds of colors from each other. But there are also owls that can exist in our imagination. So if you decide you want this to be an owl out of your imagination, that's okay. We'll have some time to add some really fun colors. Oh, I got a little paint brush, piece of my paintbrush there. Okay. So Miss Katie was talking about some of the owl things. I'm going to go ahead and wash off my paintbrush because I think I'm done painting with the brown here. You keep painting your owl body if you're still doing that. And Miss Katie was telling us about some really cool owl facts with their eyes. Remember, she was telling that their eyes are deeper and set back further in the head so they can't move them around like ours, but they can turn their head so far around. It looks like they're turning their head almost all the way to look behind them. See how far, when you get a little break, see how far you can turn your head, but be very careful and gentle because you don't want to hurt yourself. You turn it from side to side. You can stretch those muscles in your neck out. That's a good thing to do when we're getting really into our art, is to remember sometimes we have to take a break and stretch the muscles in our necks and in our fingers. Make sure you remember to do that. And sometimes in our wrists. So we can pretend to be owls and just stretch our necks as far as they'll go without hurting ourselves. Be very gentle to your neck and kind to your body. Okay. So the next step, if you are still painting your owl's body, that is okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step for me, which is, I remember in our story, I love the owl's eyes. He had big orange eyes. They had big orange eyes. So I'm going to open up my orange. And can anybody remind me? Can we all say it together? What shape were those owl's eyes? Think about it. I don't think they were a square or a triangle. I think they were a big round circle. So I'm going to make big round circles for my owl eyes. And I'm going to use my medium-sized brush for that. So there's one big eye and two big eyes, because this owl had two eyes. Now, just like people, owls can be different, and some owls may have only one eye because it's how they're born, or maybe there was an accident. So if you want your owl to be a little different or a little special, maybe he only has one eye. I don't know. That's up to you. It's your owl. I have two big owl eyes. And just so, because if you look at your eyes, they're not just a big single color. In the middle, you have something called your pupil, and owls have pupils too. It's one of those things that makes their eyes special, is how big those pupils can be. They can get big, big, big to let in lots of light when it's dark at night. So I'm gonna let this dry just a little bit. Let my eyes dry. You remember I said I wanted to use a special color for the feet? I think I want my owl's feet to be just like the sun in our book, in a nice bright yellow. What color are you going to use for your owl's feet? Can you all show me? Ooh, Miss Katie's going bright. She's got that fuchsia. And then for this part, because it's a little bit like it's a small part, I'm going to use my smaller brush. I'm going to dip it and paint those little tootsies, those toes on my owl's feet. Nice bright yellow. So while you're painting, I'm sure you notice we're going in some weird, different random orders. And sometimes that's something that you do because you need to let other areas of your project dry. So I did his feet because I'm waiting for his eyes to dry, and I can look at them and still see they are still very wet. You can see how glossy they are. They're still a little bit wet. So I'm going to think about something else I want on my owl. And I think I want some nice chest feathers, just like our owl in the book had. But I think I want my owl to be a little bit different. So I'm going to give him, have you ever seen a peacock? Peacocks have these beautiful blue and purple and green feathers. I kind of want my owl to be a little bit like a peacock with his feathers. So I'm going to use some blue and purple. Let me open that up. Nope. My blue is hard to open. There we go. So I'm going to start with some, and to make the feathers on your chest using our small, because this small brush is good for little details like those feathers, I'm just going to do some little V's. So a V, a V. Let's do a whole bunch of little V's on his chest. Okay, so it's purple V's. And I think I'm going to do some blue V's in there too. Now remember, if this makes you talking about the way an owl's head moves or their special eyes or anything else gets you curious, like the fact that they're nocturnal, so they like to be awake at night. If you're curious about that and you want to learn more about owls, guess what? We have owl books here at the library. So you can come find owl books. You can use the catalog on the computer, or you can ask at the desk if you need help finding those owl books so that you can learn more about owls and see the different kinds of owls that exist. Okay, so I have my V's. And I think I'm going to stick with the purple because I like purple so much. I'm going to take my owl's wings that are over here and I'm going to just kind of outline them a little bit better. But you can use whatever color you want. You could do white. You could do blue, purple, the fuchsia. This is your owl and your imagination. Okay, there's some. Now he has his feathers. How are you all doing? Can you give me a thumbs up if you're doing good? Yay. You having a good time with your art? All right. Next. I'm missing something. How is my owl going to eat or breathe? What did we say in our song about if you're an owl and you know it, snap your beak? I'm missing a beak on my owl. So you get to decide what color do you want your owl's beak to be. So my friend who painted this owl before, they tried to make a little yellow beak. So you could choose yellow. Or in the book, I think our friend had kind of a black or a dark brown beak. So you could do that. I think I'm going to give a yellow beak to match my yellow feet. Actually, nope, I changed my mind. I'm going to do a brown beak. And the beak that I'm going to give them is kind of like a triangle. I'm going to do it up. And then I'm going to do it down. So it makes a diamond shape. That's the kind of beak my owl is going to get. You could do a beak that is a triangle if you wanted to. Or if you wanted to, because this is your imagination owl, you could give them a nice smiling mouth. It's up to you. I'm giving mine a nice beak here that is a diamond shape. See how these eyes are still doing. They're still drying a little. But I'm going to do something to give it that look so it looks like it kind of has pupils while it's still drying. I'm going to dip it in just a little bit of water and then kind of go in a little tiny circle. So some of that paint kind of gets thinner and it looks lighter than the orange around it. So we're kind of washing away just a little bit of that paint. So it looks like my owl. Let's see. Let me lift him up here. You can kind of see he has like his little pupils now. And one thing you can do to make things stand out a little bit more is to use your white. Kind of just take that white and put a little bit of white in there. And it gives it a little bit of dimension. Kind of hard when it's still a little wet. So if you want to, you do not have to finish your owl painting today or right during this whole class. You have the rest of the day to let some of the pieces and parts dry. But since I only have a little bit of time with you, I want to show you some of the different things that I'm doing to add some dimension or a little bit of interest to my owl. So I'm also going to take that white with my little paintbrush and just kind of, let's see, go along his beak a little bit. I don't think that's as noticeable. So maybe later when it dries a little bit better, you can do that if you want to. And then see what happens if I do a little bit of white down here with my purple in my wings. And it makes it a little bit lighter. Almost like there's a little bit of a shadow there. I'm gonna do that. I like how that looks. So I'm gonna do that on all my wings. Now for this owl, the most important part is that you are happy with how he looks. And that's how all our art should be. You're happy with how they look. The other important part is to make sure that we are using the right kind of paintbrush. So if we're doing small detail things like our wings or our little feathers, we should be using the little brush. If we're doing something bigger or a little bit medium size, we should use our medium size brush, just like we did with our face and our eyes. And if we're doing a really big space, like when we primed, we should make sure we use our big brush. Always use the right tool, the right paintbrush for the job. It will make it easier. I think my owl needs one more thing. I know there are owls in nature, and this is because I want to make sure I use my bright pink, who have ear tufts. So their little ears, they have extra feathers that go, and they look a little bit like, oh, they just look like they have extra feathers coming up. So I'm going to use my fuchsia and give my owl some really cool little ear tufts. Doop, doop, doop. And yes, I'm making sound effects because I like sound effects when I'm painting sometimes. I'm giving my owl some bright pink ear tufts. And then, because I can never have enough purple, because that's my favorite color, I'm going to add some purple ear tufts too. All right. And the light in here is kind of shining down, so it makes it a little bit hard to see. And with the paint that's still wet, there's a little bit of a glare, but you can see my pink and purple ear tufts, my eyes, my big orange owl eyes, his little brown beak, his blue and purple chest feathers, and his purple and white wings, and then of course his yellow feet. So I'm happy with where my owl is. If you're not ready, if you're not done with your owl, that's okay, because maybe you want to give him some time to dry, which is all right, so that you can add more details and more layers of paint. But I'm going to show you one last thing, and you don't have to do this part yet. That's okay. Make sure as you finish up with your colors to put your lids back on so we don't accidentally spill them or dip our elbows into them. If you do though, it is okay, because you can remind your grown-up that this is tempera paint, so it's really easy to wash with some soap and water. Now we said for the name of this program, it's an owl name plaque. So you can choose, that's why you have this marker. This is a paint marker. And I'm going to show you how to get it started. You can choose to use this paint marker because it is black. So the instructions say, before use, hold cap in place and shake paint several times. So I'm going to give it a lot of shaking. Okay, and then remove the cap. And it doesn't look like it's going to do anything, but if you get an extra piece of paper and you start pressing down the let's see if I can show you a side view. So this cap right here, or this paint tip, the pen tip, if you press that in, it goes inside and it starts to get paint to come out. Sometimes you have to do it for a little while. So while you keep working on your owls, did you already get it, Miss Katie?
I did.
Amazing. Oh, there's mine. And you can see on the paper, you can paint on your paper with this paint pen, just like you would with a regular pen. And if it starts to dry up, you just push that in again for a little bit. Now, this part of my owl is looking pretty good. So, because I want to show you what I mean when I say, actually, you know what we'll do? I'm going to take my friend's owl who made hers, and her name is Cameron. This one's all nice and dry, so it's ready to go. So I am going to write, and you can write it, or you can have your grown-up write it for you. You can work together. I'm going to write Cameron on here. And then she can put it on her door or on the wall. And this is her name plaque, Cameron. And if you look at Cameron's, she was having a great time with her imagination. She added polka dots to hers. She gave her some purple or some pink magenta ears. She painted a little heart in the middle of a white chest. So she had a fantastic time painting her project just like she wanted it to look because she knew it was her art. So this is going to be Cameron's. It has her name on it now. You can also use your paint pen to later if you want to, once it's dry, when you put your name, or if you want to outline those big, I think I'm going to do that later. I'm going to outline my big owl eyes in black paint pen so they stand out even more because I want everybody to notice the big orange eyes. Okay, friends. I had a great time painting with you. If you are not done yet, you can keep painting. That is totally okay. But you know what I want to see? If you want to show me right now what your painted owl looks like right now in your process, I would love to see it. Or if you're not quite done yet and you want to show me later when it's all dry, you can send an email to us. Have your grown-up take a picture and send an email to the library. I will send them a reminder in an email, and I will also put the email address in the chat for your grown-up. So if you send it to digitalmaker@itpld.org, I would love to see your finished owls. How is yours, Miss Katie?
Going okay. That's what I have so far.
Let's see. Oh, Katie,
So
and there's an exclamation point. I love it.
So I added some pink on my owl's feet. My owl has an orange beak, but I think I need to go back. I need to wait for my paint to dry so that I can kind of fill in that color a little bit more. And then I added some yellow and orange on their ear tufts.
Yeah.
So,
nice. Yeah. That looks really good.
Thanks. I also got paint all over my hands. So definitely need to
wash our hands
up afterwards. Yeah.
Yep. And I will show you, I got paint on my hands too. Mm-hmm. Here's my owl. Hopefully this will show you in a better light what it looks like. And just like Miss Katie said, my owl needs some time to dry on certain parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will go back and fill in a little bit more. So it is okay if you don't feel like your owl is completely done. You can go back when it's dry and do it in layers. And sometimes that's what we have to do when we're artists. Nothing is always done right away. It takes some patience and time. All right, friends. I think we are done with our painting adventure for right now. I hope you keep working on yours if you are not finished. And I hope that we will see you at our next Grown Up and Me, where we'll be doing something fun with pumpkin art. So I hope you all have a great week and a great rest of your morning. It was so good to see you. Thank you for joining us.